Yes, people, hope you're all good. Welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, I'm going to be discussing water loading. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about what water loading is, the physiological mechanisms of how water loading actually works. We're going to also be talking about some research, the strategies to use for day before weigh-ins and same day weigh-ins, and then also talk through some common mistakes and some practical guidance for you. So to begin with, what is water loading? It's essentially increasing your habitual water intake for a set number of days and then cutting your water intake, and then you're able to elicit some water weight losses from this. So how does this strategy actually work? So we've got water coming in on your high intake, your high water intake days. So we've got plenty of water coming in. And what this does is it upregulates certain renal hormones, including vasopressin and aldosterone. So vasopressin, also known as antidiuretic hormone, decreases when a lot of water is coming in, because your body doesn't really want to hold on to the water you're bringing in because it's there in abundance. There's no need to conserve it because a lot of water is coming in. So what happens here is that there's aquaporin channels in the collecting ducts of your kidneys, and these act like a dial. So when water is coming in abundance, these dials open, and when water isn't coming in, these dials essentially close so that your body can conserve the fluids coming in and redistribute them around the body instead of excreting them through your urine. So when water's coming in, ADH is decreased, the channel is open, and we have an increased urine output. So that happens in the high days. So when we all of a sudden reduce your water intake, antidiuretic hormone is increased because your body recognizes that there's not a lot of water coming in. So a feedback signal from that is to try and get your body to then conserve the fluids. But as antidiuretic hormone increases, there's a little bit of a lag time from the aquaporin channels in the collecting ducts of the kidneys. These stay open for what we think is around 24 to 36 hours. So essentially your body still releases the water from your body because it hasn't quite caught up yet with what's going on. So urine output stays high. So essentially we've got not a lot of water coming in, we've got a lot of water coming out, which means that overall there's a net water loss. So that's how we lose weight from this water load. So what does the research say? So there's actually only one scientific study on this strategy. So what they did was they split two athletes into two groups. So they had one group do 40 ml per kilo water load, and they had another group do 100 ml per kilo water load. And what they found is that the 100 ml per kilo lost on average double the amount of weight as the 40 ml per kilo group. So the strategy that they implemented was 100 mils for 3 days, and then they cut it down to 15 mil per kilo on the last day. And then obviously that on average, participants lost around 1.2% of their body weight, which is quite a lot on the grand scheme of things in fight week. So how can we translate this research into practice? We have the strategy that I like to utilise with the fighters that I work with for day before weigh-ins. So from Monday to Wednesday, we do 100 mil per kilo. So do 100 times your weight in body weight, and that will give you the amount of mils that you have to drink. And then Thursday, we'll cut it down to 15 mils per kilo. And then we want to try and finish it early because we don't want you drinking a lot of water late at night, which I'm going to come on to at the end. And then obviously we've got Friday weigh-ins. So a lot of coaches will try and tell their fighters that they can't have any water the morning of their weigh-ins. If you're taking part in some active or passive sweating modalities on the morning of your weigh-in, then you might have a little bit of room for some sips of water to again try and tell your body that water is coming in to some degree. And for same day weigh-ins, we don't really want to have a real aggressive approach because we don't really want to dehydrate an athlete all too much for same day weigh-ins, as they just won't have enough time to refuel. So what I've seen anecdotally is have your habitual water intake from Monday to Thursday. Friday, cut it down to about 1 to 2 litres. And then Saturday, weigh in. And some athletes do see a drop in body weight similar to what the research says just by dropping it to 1 to 2 litres. And that way you're not really dehydrating yourself too much because on the Friday you're not going to be sweating and your water losses won't exceed water coming into the body. And then obviously Saturday weigh-in for same day weigh-ins, ideally you should be waking up on weight. So what mistakes do I most commonly see when it comes to water loading? The first mistake is too much for too long. So most coaches will advise their fighters to drink a higher amount of water than the research suggests for a longer period of time. And we know from this study here, you only need to do 3 days high, 1 day low, and you'll get that 1% roughly loss of body weight. So coaches also don't advise their fighters relative to their body weight. So they'll give advice, the same advice to a 50 kilo fighter and a 100 kilo fighter. So they'll get them drinking the same amount of water regardless of their body weight. And that can be dangerous for a lighter fighter to drink the same as a heavier fighter for a water load. So we want to make sure that it's relative to your body weight. Another mistake is cutting too much the day before. So a lot of coaches again will say to their fighters, don't drink anything for 24 hours before your weigh-in. So they'll get them to say stop drinking at 12 or 11 on the Thursday, and then they go through kind of all of Thursday not drinking anything, have a sleep, they're not drinking anything in their sleep, and then obviously they're not drinking anything for that final part of the weight cut. Whereas you kind of just want to have small sips throughout the whole of Thursday, just to make sure that again you're kind of telling your body that water is coming in, and just so it doesn't have those negative feedback signals where it tries to conserve fluids. And that may help you in the final part of your weight cut where your body wants to release that final bit of water. Again, sleep, so some practical considerations. Water loading can impact your sleep because it may lead to an increased disturbances of sleep throughout the night because you have to go up and you have to get up and urinate quite often, which we want to try and avoid. So try and finish your water load relatively early. Try and get a lot of it done in the first half of the day, just so it doesn't impact your sleep too much. And again, flavour. So a lot of people struggle to drink 7 to 8 litres of plain water per day. So again, you can maybe utilize some low sugar and low sodium squashes or cordials or things like that. Or you could even use herbal teas. They can be quite good to add some flavour into your water that you're drinking for your water load. So to summarise, water loading can be a really effective and safe strategy to use on fight week. Some people are against this strategy, but again, you kind of have to understand how your body reacts to water loading, because anecdotally I've seen people react really well to water loading, and I've also seen people not react at all to any water loading protocol. You have to trial and error this maybe during the off season or earlier in your fight camp to see how your body reacts, because if you can lose up to 1.2% of your body weight just by drinking a little bit of water, then again that's going to help massively, and it's going to help you spend less time in the sauna, and you're going to be exposing yourself to less heat, which is favourable for a weight cut. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment or subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.